Now let's take a look at inking up the M2 X series with the P30i inks. We're going to start by removing our cover here. Now, a lot of people have a tendency to leave this cover off. It is just a decorative cover. You do want to be able to take a look at your inks, but that's why these sight windows are cut in here, so that even when the cover's on, we can look in there. So there's no reason why you can't leave the cover on if you would like to. I'm going to set this off to the side. Now, back here, we've got our white ink container, the stirring motor, the peristaltic pump which circulates the white ink. This motor here is what agitates the white ink with the stirring paddle. We've got the filter. Now what the filter's purpose is if there's any sediment in the bottom of the white ink bottle, as it draws it up, before it sends it out towards the printhead, it filters out any heavy particles. And then we've got our ink bottles. You also have these shutoff valves. You want to make sure that these shutoff valves are all the way in the open position, which is all the way up when they're as loose as possible. You will also see multiple lines coming out of these bottles. The ones coming out of the center are your ink supply lines going to the printhead. The ones on the outside, that's your pressure tubing. Now, the easiest way to fill this up with ink initially is going to be to take your 8-ounce bottles, if that's the way you purchased it, and simply replace the empty bottle that's on the machine with the ink bottle, because they happen to have the same opening size. Now, I like to open up my ink bottles first. And for your white ink, you want to gently agitate this. We don't want to shake it up and get it all foamy, but we do want to agitate it. Now, as far as storing your ink, whatever ink you don't put in the machine, you want to shake this ink. Now, I would highly recommend shaking this every day, just like this. Shake it 5-10 times, something like this. Just turn it upside right, upside down, just to get this nice and mixed. The white ink has titanium dioxide in it that settles out of solution. We need to keep it suspended. So we do that by agitating this. That's what the stirring paddle does here. It takes care of that for us on the machine side, but we have to take care of any backstock. You have to do it, like I said, best idea every day, but minimum 2 to 3 times a week. Every day is the best, though. Okay, we'll open that up. Now, these are labeled. You'll see these little pieces of tubing on here with the appropriate colors. So the yellow one gets my yellow ink. Now, it is possible if I leave this open long enough, which I'll do for you on the last one, an alarm is going to go off. And what that is that's the pressure pump. The pressure pump runs for a certain period of time, and if it runs too long without being able to get these bottles up to pressure, it's basically letting us know that we have some kind of an air leak. Alright, so I'm going to leave this one off for a moment. You hear that pump? That's your pressure pump. Okay, it should be tripping fairly soon. And there it is. So from behind the machine, if I'm standing behind it looking towards the front, on the left-hand side, you've got a little panel, and now I've got a light that's flashing amber and red. And it says ink pressure, pump status is where the light is, and it says pump restart. So I simply press and hold the restart button. It gets rid of that alarm, and now the pump will kick back on, and as long as I'm able to get that system pressurized within a reasonable amount of time, we will not have that alarm any longer. Now, we do not want to plug in this connection yet. Now we're going to go to the front of the machine and actually do our ink charges, which is how we fill the machine with ink. We are now going to look at the actual process of getting ink into the machine. We've got our bottles on the back, and one very important thing to realize, and I can't emphasize this enough, before we ever do anything at this control panel other than just giving it power, we want to always make sure the bed is loaded into the machine. We don't have to have platens on it, but this bed needs to be loaded. If we don't do that, we're going to get an error message on the control panel. So we're going to always start by hitting the load button and loading the bed. We'll know it's loaded when the load light turns green. And now it's green, so now we know it's loaded properly. So now I'm going to open this up, and again, remember, the cover open is not an error message. That was your normal standby message. Now it says media width 610, which is very common. It's either going to say ready to plot or media width 610. Now you don't want to hit the enter button when you see this message. The way you always want to clear this is by hitting the cancel button. And now it says print ready, and now let's take a look at getting ink in here. To fill it with ink, we're going to hit the menu button, and we're going to use the next button until we find cleaning. To get into the cleaning function, we hit enter, and we want a longer cleaning. So we use the reverse or forward buttons. I like to use the reverse button until it says longer. Now we hit enter, and that's our ink refill. That's how we get ink into the machine initially. If we take a look at the print head, we will see that ink is starting to be drawn into the lines. And you may have to do this anywhere from 1 to 4 times on a new machine. And what we're looking for is we want ink to come all the way into the lines, all the way into the dampers. The dampers are those white pieces that are on top of the print head. Now if we look at the ink line here, okay, there's just these really light traces. Now this machine here was flushed out after being used at one of the trade shows. So this light color that you see in here is not the actual ink, it's the residual part of the flush. If we look further in the lines, which the camera doesn't pick up right now, you'll see that the lines actually just have a trace of color in there. There's no real color. But in a moment, you will actually see these are going to be filled with dark color. we are currently on our third cleaning, and if you watch carefully now, you see the ink being drawn in. Okay, like I said, that could be very quick, or you might have to do this several times. This is pretty average. This machine has been flushed out, so anywhere around 2 to 4 times on a flushed machine. We're not done yet. This is going to still finish this. What we're looking for is not only do we want to see these lines filled, which now the lines are filled, we also want to look at the dampers, okay, these little white boxes, and we want to see that there's ink inside those. Also, when the print head moves away, we can look at the capping station, and when we look at it, we want it nice and saturated with ink. And then the last thing we can do is look over by where the waste bottle is on the right-hand side here, and we can see if there's ink coming into the waste bottle. When we see that, we know we're close to being primed. Now, once we get to that point, we want to do one more of these longer cleanings, but this time we're going to plug in that power cord on the back of the machine, that lit connection that we made sure was disconnected. After we've gotten through this one, like I said, one more to ensure that we're fully primed, but we're going to plug in the white on the last one. Now, I'm moving out the print head just so you can see that capping station. Now, yours is going to be snow white on a brand new machine. Like I said, this machine was used at a show, so it's been flushed, so it looks very clean. That's how yours should look every afternoon. But there is some residual cleaning solution and flushing solution on that pad. So I'm now going to dock this print head back again, and I want you to see how it becomes full of ink when we are fully primed. Now I'm about to do my fourth cleaning, my longer cleaning, but again, on this last one, I want to make sure I plug in that connection, that lit connection on the back, so that the white ink is circulating. That noise you hear is the circulation pump that just turned on. Okay, you can see now on that capping station, look at all that ink. That wasn't there before. That's what we're looking for. So now the lines are filled, the dampers are filled, and that capping station is nicely saturated with ink. The last thing, like I said, we would be looking for is we can look in the waste bottle. At this point in time, you will start seeing liquid dripping into it.